Bruce, the first question is, what is the best thing for a human being?
Uh, life.
Life. Thank you. What is your favorite form of information?
Spoken word.
I am there with you. I love that. Um, why do you think we gather or collect information?
Because we're learning that that's how we get information.
Yeah. Do you think this need or want to collect information, gather it, is hardwired? Is it in our DNA or did we learn it?
I think it's hardwired.
It's in our DNA?
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you conjure up your earliest memory?
No.
That's a good answer. Do you think you got any early memories? Not the earliest. You got any early that pop into your head, like when you were young?
I do have some.
How about just one early one?
You know, I don't even have one.
Okay, were you were born in '38, right?
Yeah.
What town were you raised in?
I was raised in New York City.
New York City. And so, do you think memory is a curse or a blessing?
I think it's both.
Both, yeah. Um, who were your earliest role models within your immediate family? And sort of just briefly, what specifically did you get from them?
Uh, I'm sorry, I don't know, Jerry.
Don't know.
Mm.
But you were raised by both your mom and your dad?
Well, I was raised primarily by my mom.
By your mom. Do you think she made an impact on you?
Undoubtedly.
But in what?
That's what mothers do.
Yeah. But what do you think the main thing you got from her? Any major thing, you know?
You know, I don't even remember.
Okay. And so, anybody outside your immediate family that had an impact on you?
Probably, but I don't remember.
Right. And how about any time in your life?
Um, you know, I always thank God that, you know, he didn't make me into an asshole.
That's good. Go ahead.
You know, I could have been an asshole.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think when I was born, you know, I was born as Nishipokaya.
Who's that?
Nishipokaya is, it's a Native American person.
Oh.
And I always remember that, you know, I used to be Nishipokaya. One thing that Nishipokaya receives is, you know, strength. And I had a lot of strength. Yeah. And I was like, I was very lucky in that, you know, God said to me, well, okay, I'll give you this strength, but you have to think about it. What does that mean?
Right.
And do not be an asshole.
That is amazing. Now, is this guy, how do you spell this guy's name? N, you know?
Niti. N-I-T-I.
Yeah.
B-O.
B-O?
P-O.
P-O.
I think it's probably K-A-Y-O.
And so, was this like a character you read about in an American Indians history book and say, "Oh, that's who I am"?
Uh,
How'd
I
you?
think the first time I realized that I was Didipal Kaya was uh, when I was younger. I used to be able to climb up buildings, and
You
I
mean actually scale the side of buildings?
actually scaled the side.
Not imaginary. You
I
would
actually
did it. Yeah.
did.
It was sort of like a New York kids thing, or you were the only kid doing
I was doing it again. My neighborhood was doing it.
it. Did the other kids love to watch you do it?
The other kids would get out of the way.
Did your
Yes,
mom
yes.
say don't do it because you might hurt yourself?
No,
She know you were doing it?
I don't know whether she knew or not.
How many stories would you go up?
Well, I would go up, like I would go up the side of a building, you know, I'd go up, you know, 1 or 2 stories, and I would go, you know, there was a library building on my corner. I used to always climb up that building,
Jeez, that is cool.
you know.
Did she? Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, did she raise you a particular religion?
Uh, no.
No, didn't go to church at all?
Well, I did go to church.
Because she was telling you, or you went on your own?
I went because, you know, little boys and girls in my neighborhood were supposed to go to church,
Right.
you know. So I went, you know, but it was like, you know, uh, it wasn't because I felt any deep spiritual compunction
Right.
to go to church.
Right.
As a matter of fact, the opposite was true. You know, I felt no desire to go to church,
Huh.
and I managed to get kicked out of church for being a badass. That's just my experience.
That is. Do you think evil people exist, or does evil use people as a vehicle?
I don't think evil exists.
At all, yeah.
I don't think it exists.
Yeah. And then this question is about how you would advise someone to deal with an enemy. So, like if I came to you and says, how could I? I'm going to read you a couple modern thinkers' thoughts on enemies just to set it up. Alan Watts says, if you acknowledge your enemy, you empower them. Coppola stole from the mob and the samurais. Keep your friends close, but your enemies closer. JFK said, forgive your enemy, but don't forget their name.
Right.
And
He
so,
also said, "Ich bin eine Berliner."
who said that?
JFK.
Did he?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Ich bin eine Berliner means I am a Berliner.
Oh, that means I am a Berliner.
Yeah. And that was, you know, that was,
I am my enemy, he said.
well, he, this was after, you know, I guess it was the Bay of Pigs incident.
Right.
When the United States got its ass royally kicked by the Cubans.
Cubans. Shit.
You know, they went into kicking ass, but they were like, you know, oh shit, here come these capitalists trying to tell us how to act. No fucking way.
Wow. So, let's just start out with the Alan Watts thing. If you acknowledge your enemy, you empower them. Any comment on that approach?
There is no such thing as an enemy.
Yeah. It's a good answer. So James Joyce was the first projectionist movie theater in Dublin 100 years ago. Basically went in there and said, I'm out of here. This is stupid. Why should I go inside a building and see a movie of a tree and then go outside and see a real tree.
Exactly.
Then,
Which is much better.
right, and then Faulkner said years later, sometimes the best fiction is more true than journalism. Why?
Which is also true.
Which is, I believe, why do we as humans have to recreate things in order to get them? In other words, why do we go to a theatrical play, people acting out life? Why don't we just live life?
Exactly. I think it's really stupid.
Do you?
Yeah.
But what do you think the motive of the cave artist was?
Are you talking about the early Pleistocene artists who painted on walls?
Yeah.
Well, I think that at that time, those individuals didn't know anything about how the world works.
Right.
And if you want to fart, farting's acceptable here.
You know, my friend Tim Carey says, live long, live healthier, let thy arse make wind.
Right. Loud.
Ripped it. But so you were saying that they were doing what? The cave artists were doing what?
Well, I have heard some information
Yeah.
about the cave artists who had the skull of a cave bear.
Bear. Yeah.
Yeah, it was the skull of a cave bear on it was some kind of plinth. I guess it's stalactites and stalagmites are getting mixed up.
Right.
But I think that it was probably a stalactite.
Uh-huh.
And I think that what happened was that the early cave artists, didn't know, what, I get, like one of the early gods was this god named Tlaloc.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that they did not have any idea of what Tlaloc wanted. But they found out that if they gave Tlaloc, some, the most precious thing they had was a life. So they gave...
L-I-F-E? Life?
Yeah.
Give the skull a life.
Well, that's what they did, because they didn't know, what Tlaloc wanted and why, Tlaloc would, if he was given a life, would want to move forward and help them.
Mm.
They didn't fucking know.
Wow.
So, the only thing that early cave people used to know about was, if we killed somebody, then, there might be water, in the place where we get water, next year.
So so they thought it maybe is like this source of bringing them new life.
Well, they thought that was what Tlaloc wanted.
Wow. How do you spell that guy's name?
Tlaloc?
Yeah.
T-L-A-L-O-C.
Now, is he a god?
Yes.
He's a god. Of what? Of Egypt or cave art god?
Cave art.
Cave art.
Pleistocene.
Cave art god. Amazing.
Because that's just me guessing.
Yeah. Oh, that's fun. So, what was the first music you heard growing up? On radio or vinyl or live?
The first that I remember is, this girl named Ruth Brown. we sang a song, and the name of the song was "Mama, He Treats Your Daughter Mean."
That is a great. Now, on what format though? Radio or vinyl or live?
This was like radio.
Radio.
Or actually, let me see. It wasn't actually radio. It was like a record player.
It was like probably a 78 or a 45.
I'm not really sure.
Yeah. So it was something your mom bought, or we were at somebody's house?
It's something that I don't know where it came from.
Where it came from. So you heard that. What did it do to you when you heard it?
Well, I just thought, well, music, that's what music is. Yeah, and it just fucking blew me away. So it was so cool.
But was at that point you heard that, say, that's what I want to do?
No.
What point did you go, oh, I want to do that?
I never went there.
Oh, you never did that?
I never said, this is what I want to do.
It just sort of fell in place?
It just happened for me.
You were just at the right place at the right time?
Exactly.
Jeez, but when did you first start picking up instruments? How far after that Ruth Brown record? Like, what age are you at Ruth Brown? Teenager or preteen?
I would say I was probably actually just at the beginning of teen, probably.
Yeah, you're just 13, 14, 15-ish.
Something like
Then when did you start playing an instrument? Soon afterwards or 10 years after?
I don't really know.
Oh, okay. And so you just sort of fell into it because you were around other people who were playing music.
Well, I sort of fell into it because it was there.
Yeah. But was it more like hootenanny idea where people would
No.
gather in a living room and everybody would sort of
No.
participate? Huh. What do you think the function of music is?
I think it really depends on, what your heart tells you and what you got going.
Right.
But I thought, that, like Mama, He Treats Your Daughter Mean, as sung by Ruth Brown, was such a wonderful thing. And what I used to do was I had this, it was an old thing like this,
Right.
and I had it in my room, and I just used to play it over and over again, because I just thought it was great.
Yeah. Did you sing?
Not then.
Not then. And so, any other songs early on that made that kind of impact?
Not like that.
Not like that one. Oh.
That was the one that really, made me into a musician, I think.
Right. Tom Waits said that the best music doesn't want to be recorded. Any comment?
Yes.
You'd agree?
That's my comment. Yes.
Do you think recording music changed music?
Yes.
For the good or the bad? Or both?
It changed it.
Just changed it, yeah, rather than make a value judgment. Yeah.
Well, I don't want to say anything is good or is bad.
That's great. How'd you learn that? That's called suspended judgment. How'd you come about that way of thinking?
Well, I think just primarily by listening.
By listening?
Right. Yeah. And one of my conclusions was that, something cannot be good or bad. Something just is.
Yes. It's amazing. But then, what was your motive in starting your hot sauce company?
I couldn't find any hot sauce that uh, fulfilled the criteria which I thought were necessary for hot sauce. And that was hot sauce. Hot is not hot pepper was. Hot is like hot spicy.
Spicy, not temperature, yeah.
Not temperature.
Not heat, but spicy.
It's a big difference.
Yeah. So you said, I can't find it, so I'll just invent my own.
Or that might have been what happened.
Wow. What year was that about?
Probably I'd say probably in the 50s
50s.
or 60s. I didn't
Right.
see.
Yeah, that's cool.
Really hard.
That's
I
fine.
really good answering
But
questions.
but now it's interesting, and it's still going? You still do it?
Yeah.
That's good.
Well, I don't do it.
Right, but someone else does it with your it's still Brother Brewer, right?
Yeah.
So, but do you, just taking that one step, that value judgment thing, do you think your hot sauce is good or bad?
Good.
Now, why do you make a value judgment on the hot sauce and not on other things?
Because, I just think that I have tried to, just follow my heart on the hot sauce.
Right.
Yeah. And I think, and like I've forgotten lots of shit.
Right.
Like, I've hung around with some of the crazier people
Right.
in the neighborhood.
Right.
And one of my friends called me up and she said, "Do you remember the time the girls had a fist fight in your kitchen?" And I had to go, "Oh, I don't remember that." And she said, "Well, one time we got into this tremendous, I'm making up a word.
That's a good word, though. Tremendous, you mean?
Fist fight
Right.
in that kitchen,
Right.
and I didn't even remember that.
Well, it's not really something you have to remember.
Well, it's something, that was different.
Right.
I mean, it's really crazy.
Yeah.
For two beautiful women to start punching each other out
Wow.
in my kitchen. Anyway,
That was beautiful. So that's interesting because McLuhan also said this funny thing. He said there's no such thing as a good or a bad movie. It's a good or a bad viewing experience.
There you go. That's absolutely true.
Yeah. He also said that everything we invent extends some part of us. So he says, a human part, like skin, we extend with clothing. Knife and fork, we extend our teeth. What do you think the drum extended for you? What human part of you?
Of course, whenever I get a question like that, I'm always tempted to say, "Oh, the penis."
I get that answer a lot. That's all right. That's funny because, Joseph Campbell said, my friend was hanging out with him. Her parents were the folk entrepreneurs of Chicago. You probably went to their house. Her name is Armstrong, Jennifer Armstrong. And she hung out with Joseph Campbell. And she goes, this guy was so cool because he was the first not hippie dude in a band who came up to our house. He had a suit and tie on, but he started talking about drums with like vagina skin and hitting them with penises. So that is, I get that answer. That's fun. Because that's also when I go, what do you think the motive of the cave artists was? These people sometimes go, to get laid. What do you think is the most significant difference between men and women, plumbing aside?
Uh, I think, one thing that I've experienced here, living here, is, you know, once a woman decides, she is with a man, she will, just jump up and kick ass,
Right,
and she will just do that.
right.
And she does that, for her man,
Yeah,
period.
yeah,
You know, even if her man is an asshole.
right.
I mean, once she decides this is her person, watch out,
Yeah,
because this is a ferocious bitch.
yeah,
And she will go anywhere, do anything, anytime, and she doesn't have, I think, men, in a lot of ways, are scared, you know, because, we all, we all recognize our capacity
yeah,
for, really doing damage. So we're very hesitant to do it,
yeah,
But, uh, when we are aroused, when we're, when we get into a fight, we are fucking bad news.
yeah,
Because we will just, I mean, we will, we will go forward, and, whether, whether it's a creature who's 2 times as tall as we are and 4 times as wide, we will still be into, come on, motherfucker, I'll take you on.
Why do you think women live longer than men?
Because they're not faced with that same problem
Yeah,
at the same time.
yeah,
If you're a man, God damn it, we're gonna fight.
yeah,
And, I think that one thing that happens for us as a species is, I think that, we're ready, willing, and able to fight.
right.
And we will fight. At any time we think that that's the manly thing to do, we'll fucking do it.
You think we're hardwired to fight? Or did we learn it?
I think we learned it, but I think we're also hardwired to fight. We're hardwired to fight because that's kind of what males do.
Yeah,
There was, I remember seeing a Gary Larson cartoon one time.
yeah,
And this cartoon was of it was two male deer, and one of them was, in the sights of this hunter's gun, and he was like grinning like this and pointing at the other one. It was so funny.
that is great.
It was so right on.
Jeez. Do you believe in capital punishment?
No.
No. How do you think you came about that? By logic or by some way somebody raised you, or how did you come to be that way?
Well, I do believe that there is no such thing as a bad situation or a bad individual. There's no such thing as bad individuals. But, we do condition very easily as males. We do that.
Yeah.
But, a person who, just, wants to kick ass because it's another person, does not exist. But we're learning.
Yeah.
You know, that's another reason why I think, I think that what's happened is that it's becoming a female-dominated planet. And that's a good thing.
Yeah.
And, I think that females have a different way of moving forward. Harry Belafonte, whose band I was in at one time, had a song. And the song, I think, was like, some say that the women of today smarter than the men in every way. Those were the lines of the song. And, he wanted to get the audience to sing along. And, and what happened was that the women would just jump in and say, "That's right, you women are smarter." And the men would just...
They were less inclined to like join in strong on the chorus.
Right.
Did you see that documentary they just had on him?
No, I
Yeah, I missed that too. I want to see that. He's one of those hero guys, like,
He is.
he's just strong and beautiful. So that's interesting what you were saying, because there's this one line that I like. It's not so much I agree with it, but I think it's an interesting thought, that the word mafia starts with the letters M-A, which means ma, because the women run the world, but they let men think they run the world.
Exactly.
You think that's true?
I'm sure. I'm absolutely sure of it.
That is good. So, this is about learning, and you brought up the word learning a couple times. So, this great filmmaker, Michael Apted, he made Coal Miner's Daughter and 28 and Up, and I asked him...
Coal Miner's Daughter, that was a great show.
Yeah, he's a great filmmaker. And I asked him about 30 years ago, right over here at Videos, I says, why do rock video makers feel so obliged to edit fast? Because it's cut so fast. He says, because we've learned to take in information faster. Do you think we have learned to take in information faster, or we're just brainwashed to believe we can?
I think, what's happening is it's different.
Yeah.
And we as individuals, do not recognize the difference yet. And in some parts of the world, like matriarchies,
Right.
there are places where, women actually are running things. Like, I've tried to illustrate some examples of that.
Yeah.
But, it really is true. I used to have, like one time when I was in Harry's band, I used to have a girlfriend, who I could convince her to do anything. I would say, "Oh, Natalie, this is the right thing to do."
Yeah.
She'd say, "Okay." Yeah. And she, one time, Harry had a habit of saying, "And these are my 3 women." And, and there were like 4 women on the stand when I told my girlfriend Natalie, I said, "Get out there and just take it as true."
Yeah.
And don't say anything. Just sit there.
Yeah.
And she did. Anyway, so that was just what happened.
So, what your thoughts are really clearly communicating to me. One thing that you inspired me was to recall Igor Stravinsky's line. He says, most people don't know what they like what they know.
Exactly. That is so fucking true.
Yeah.
That is so true.
And then the other one that I love is, somehow this one came up when McLuhan showed, or when some anthropologist showed like these African guys a movie, and you know the character's in the middle of the movie and he's doing something.
And the individuals are running around with televisions and shit saying, anthropologist, anthropologist.
Right,
Yeah,
but here's the scene.
so funny.
So the character's in the middle of the screen doing something, and a chicken runs in the background off the screen. And so then they interview the African people, what did you think about the movie? And they go, what happened to that chicken? You know, and that's called user as content. That the user is the content, it's not the content. But that's like, you know, they could care less about the protagonist in the middle. They were like, where'd that chicken go?
Right.
It's so, let's see. This is about intention in art. Like when you say you're starting out to write a song, one guy says that basically the question is, what role does intention play in your creative process?
All of it.
Does it really?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. And so Duchamp said there's no art without an audience. How much do you think of the audience when you're writing the song? Are you thinking?
Not at all.
Not at all. Yeah. Bruce, what is more important, conviction or compromise?
Conviction.
Huh. Where do you think you got that from?
You know, knowing what I could and could not do, or learning something that I could not do, because I tried to do everything.
Did you? So that's amazing. You really sussed it out, and you said, "I want to try this," and then you couldn't do it, and then you could do it.
Well, I had an interesting experience. This girl that I was talking about, Natalie, you know, at one point, you know, when I was playing in Harry's band, and I told her to go up on stage and take an instrument.
Right.
Yeah. And Harry was in the habit of always saying, and these are my four, I don't know,
Right.
semi-musicians. And Natalie was on stage,
Right.
holding an instrument. And there were, you know, the band, we were on Harry's band, and this whole front line of all these musicians just suddenly disappeared behind the music stage, because we were all there just laughing our asses. Because we thought it was so funny. And Harry was don't let me cast aspersions on Harry. He was a wonderful, wonderful guy.
Yeah.
And the only reason that, I ever, encouraged Natalie to do anything like that was that sometimes Harry would just say shit, without thinking about it.
That's great. That's this line I learned. I'm trying to get more control over my spontaneity.
It's funny.
Isn't that a great line? Is ambition based more on fear or joy?
It should be based on joy.
Yeah.
It's frequently based on fear.
Yeah. Why do you think?
I think because we tend to be, fearful, and we tend to think that the only way to beat the fear is to fight.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that happens. And, you know, the more I think about it, the more I realize that, you know, that's only half of humanity.
Yeah.
That's on, you know, that's on the male half of humanity.
Yeah.
And it's still going on.
It is.
You know, but it's like, you know, I mean, we're learning.
Yeah. It's a great attitude, man. So you consider yourself an optimist?
Yes,
You have hope and confidence in the human race.
uh, to a limited extent.
Yeah.
You know, I know that we do not have that much time left
Uh-huh.
on planet Earth.
Yeah.
We just don't. You know, it's just, you know, what happens with, you know, with a solar mass of the size of our solar mass. You know, that just happens. Well, what's going to happen, I think, is in the next 5,000 years, a solar mass the size of our sun is going to turn into a red giant. A red giant is what happens to solar masses of the size of our solar mass when they reach a point where they have exhausted their hydrogen fuel. When the hydrogen fuel is exhausted, we go from a condition of fission to a condition of fusion. And I just think that that's what's happening.
Yeah.
Of course, I'm totally bullshitting.
But that's red giant, RED GIANT.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know the great old Afro-American proverb: if you can't dazzle them with your brilliance, baffle them with your bullshit.
Oh, that's just a great idea.
Isn't that a great one? Beats don't fail me now. Okay, how about this one, Bruce? And man, I really appreciate your time here. This is wonderful. I appreciate it. Is loyalty based on reason?
No.
What do you think it's based on?
What you happen to be exposed to.
Sort of back to that Stravinsky quote.
Yes,
People don't know what
exactly.
they like what they know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly true.
So, T.S. Eliot said that poetry is outing your inner dialogue. So the first question is what language is your inner dialogue in?
I like to think it's all languages, but I know that that's not true.
Wow. What form is your inner consciousness in?
You know, one of the most influential forms for me has been maleness.
Maleness.
Yeah.
Jeez. What does maleness look like or sound like?
Well, one thing that has happened for males is that males, you know, are always ready to fight.
Yeah.
And, you know, and we have looked at, you know, the male way of doing things, and we have seen that males, you know, are just now starting to realize that this is a female-dominated planet.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're just fucking starting to get it.
Wow. What do you think kicked us over? Anything specific?
Yes.
What?
I think the specific thing is that for the first time for our species, thanks to technology, we're able to communicate in real time one to another for the very first time.
What took us so long?
Well, we were never able to realize the fact that, especially, yes, the women are smarter. We were never able to get that.
Yeah.
In spite, there's lots of evidence.
Yeah.
But it's something that we've never really observed until now, for the first time for our species.
That is heavy. So there's one filmmaker whose mantra or sort of manifesto is ignore yourself. Another guy says there's no self-expression. In fact, Cecil Taylor, the great jazz pianist, he says, I'm just a vehicle and this stuff just comes through me. Do you think that art making, music making, is more self-expression or more a vehicle for whatever technology or culture is dominant?
Well, I think that's really a vehicle for culture.
Do you really? Yeah. Do you think art can be egoless?
I'm waiting for it to appear.
You played with a lot of heavy musicians who have big egos, but some of them probably got to that point. I heard one guy say once, this is an amazing thing, he says, when you get to be a really good artist or musician, that's when your art is egoless. Do you think, have you ever experienced that? And of all the greats you played with, that some of them, it was egoless?
That's another hard question. You come up with all these fucking hard.
I got a couple easy ones, but anyways, you've been really amazing. But it is sort of interesting to think, because usually, especially like young people growing up, now the whole idea of a musician is you don't become a musician, you become a rock star. It's like there's a different, seems sort of like a different motivation. But there are some.
It's money.
It's money. But there are some who just get driven by playing music, like most of my friends who are street musicians. They want to pass that, but
they do what comes from their
heart. Yeah.
Exactly.
But how is that different from ego? That's what I'm saying. It's coming from their heart, but it's also there. It's just like,
it's different because it's not. Gerry, get the fuck out of here.
God, dude, you're one of my. I really appreciate this. Okay, the next question is perception reality?
No.
So McLuhan also probed this book by James Joyce called Finnegan's Wake, which you've already brought up indirectly when I asked you what your inner dialogue is. You said all languages. That book has 60 languages in it. So in a way you were saying your inner dialogue is Finneganese, we call it. It's like a language. So
I'm proud to be a Finneganian.
A Finneganian. You gain with the Ganian. You're up with the downstroke. So McLuhan probed Finnegan's Wake by James Joyce. He said that artists dream while they're awake. Everybody dreams. We all have these amazing scenarios where we're sleeping. We're using these creative powers. But artists also use them while they're awake. Have dreams played a role in your creative process?
I have to say yes, but I'm not sure exactly what role.
Right, right. Um, why is it so difficult for humans to consider the possibility that life may be pointed?
Because, oh, probably anytime we think about life and we think about, what it is, we realize that it is not pointless, but we may not know the point.
Right.
But I don't think it's pointless at all.
No, I don't think it's pointless, but it is sort of hard to, to consider the possibility that it might be pointless.
I never have that problem.
You never have that problem. And Lewis Carroll said, I believe as many as 6 impossible things before breakfast. Have you believed in any impossible things lately?
No.
So you figure you're pretty much like a practical thinker?
I know I'm a different kind of thinker, but so is everybody.
Everybody is, yeah. Now, what elements of your creativeness making music have stayed the same for your whole career, and what elements have changed?
The elements that have stayed the same are I've always been able to be told, that what I do because I do it from the heart.
Right,
And that's kind of my bottom line.
right,
And I have been a total asshole in my life, but God has told me, hey, you don't want to kill anybody. These are my people.
right,
And, I have to go, oh shit, that's right. Okay, God, well, I won't.
right.
So that was just what was happening for me.
No, that was well put. But then that's what stayed the same. What had changed for you? Anything in your creative process have changed?
Well, I've learned more about, different types of music
Oh, different from different countries.
and different parts of the world.
Yeah,
That's true.
yeah,
I've also learned that being Nitapokaya, means the same thing as, like learning the strength that comes with great wisdom.
right.
And I just don't, I do not want to, I know that I could be an asshole.
Yeah,
And I believe that there's probably some people who think that I was a super asshole. And, maybe that's true for them. But, every time I think about it, uh, if God really wanted me to be an asshole, he would have said, okay, you could be an asshole.
right.
And, I was just very lucky
Yeah,
in that I never had to do that.
yeah.
And it's still going on that way for me.
Yeah, well, hey, my encounters with you on our parade, I never found you to be an asshole. I found you to be like a right-on kind of leader of the parade. Like,
Well, I
let's play
tried to be,
music
I
and
tried
get
to be
these
cool.
wheels turning.
I tried to be cool.
In fact, I'll never forget the time I showed that New Orleans film with Professor Longhair and Toots, and everybody walked out outside, and you were the only one watching. I go, Jesus, here's our roots, and the only guy who's watching is the guy who knows the roots. But here's Gregory Bateson. He's a great thinker who said, because you keep talking about learning, and I appreciate that. And one thing is at some point, and you talk about assholes and learning, and at some point people go, well, you messed up, so we're going to punish you to teach you, to learn. Okay, what he says about punishment is that when a crook gets caught, we're not sure he thinks he's doing something morally wrong, or he's messed up on his crook skills.
He got caught.
He got caught. He was like, yeah, hey, it doesn't matter. I'm not doing anything morally wrong. I just didn't have my skills as a crook going well then. So, in essence, when you punish him, doesn't do anything.
Means nothing.
Right.
Not a fucking thing.
So yeah, that's a funny thing about learning. So Moshe Feldenkrais is a guy who works with movement and healing. Like if you break your back, he's had this process of helping people heal. Pretty smart guy, and he says it's literally possible to identify a weakness and incorporate it to become a strength, rather than we're normally taught to overcome a weakness. Can you tell me a weakness that you've incorporated to become a strength?
Well, I don't have any fingers on this hand.
Yeah.
And that would be considered a weakness for anyone who is, planning to have a career in music.
Right.
But it's proved to be an advantage for me, because I can say to somebody like Jose Feliciano, I can say, well, shit, man, you play pretty good for a guy with no fingers.
You mean he said that to you?
Well, he said to me, he said, you play pretty good for a guy with no fingers. And I said to him, you play pretty good for a guy who can't see.
See, that's good. That's this book I was just reading. Joe Franklin had Frank Zappa on his TV show, and he goes, from where I'm sitting, because he had long hair, he says, it looks like you could be a woman. And Frank goes, because he had a wooden leg, he says, from where I'm sitting, it looks like you could be a table.
Oh, man.
Now, American Indians, Eastern culture, respect their elders. How do you explain Western culture's disdain for old age?
I think that people who are involved with Western culture think that technology is the answer. And I think that people who are actually looking at the history of our civilization realize, no, that's not the answer. That's just one thing that's happened in the picture. And it's definitely not the answer.
Yeah.
Because there is no such thing as the answer.
Right. Wow. Now, Joseph Beuys is an artist who said, make the secrets productive.
Exactly.
Why do you think that, why would you say exactly, why would someone say make the secrets productive?
Because, all of us are moving forward, and all of us have our individual ways of going forward. And I think that for all of us, we are learning that there's more than one way of moving forward.
Yeah.
Or more than one wait to skin the goose or,
Yeah.
or fuck the cat or whoever you want at the time.
Right. This guy, I just got this one. The best way to keep a cultural form alive is to pretend to be revealing its secrets while you're keeping its secrets.
Well, see, that's a little too subtle for me.
Too subtle?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because another guy, Lou Welsh, who's the beat poet, who he came up with the line, "Ray kills bugs dead." Man, is that poetry or what? He's a beat poet, and he wrote the killer ad line. He said, "Guard the secrets, constantly reveal them."
Exactly.
Isn't that amazing? Yeah. Bruce, can anger be a productive emotion?
No.
Can satire be destructive?
I have to think a little bit about satire.
Yeah.
What does satire mean for you?
Yeah, that's good. I'm glad you're turning the question on to me, man. You
Yes,
win. That's good.
I
Yeah, I
don't
know.
know.
No, I know. That's important. Satire is the interesting thing because it's like, when you think of somebody like Lenny Bruce or Richard Pryor, Lenny Bruce would make fun of Jews and blacks, and Richard Pryor would make fun of whites, and
everybody wound up laughing.
yeah, well, that's Steve Allen also said, behind every joke, there's a grievance.
Exactly.
That's a heavy one. But I don't really think, now this is where Lenny Bruce, and had a big influence on Zappa too, Frank. What Frank did was reverently satirize black music. He loved it so much that he wasn't ashamed to satirize it. In fact, we just had Fishbone movie over at the Unurban the other night, and this guy Norwood is just an immense fellow because he's 25 years going strong playing the music, and all his peers, Red Hot Chili Peppers and No Doubt, have made it huge, and he hasn't. And they all know he should have made it. And they go, one guy called us, "What was your group like?" He goes, "Runaway Slaves." And that is that when they hit the stage, they kick the mic stands and they're blowing trombones and throwing their trombones, and everything is, but in the chaos, there's just this magic. And they know, and that is it. They're runaway slaves. And so, they're in the one point in the movie, they says your lead singer satirizes himself. And it's like, that's it. Like when I asked that question to one guy who's a professional comedy writer, he wrote for Robin Williams, I says, "Can satire be destructive?" He goes, "That's the job of satire." But if you do a cartoon in some Middle Eastern country and they see it in a newspaper and they kill people, well, that could be saying, well, your satire was destructive. But it's an interesting question, because that is, what is satire? I mean, everything we do is satire in a way, because maybe our minds. Here's another question I'd like to ask you. What's faster, the speed of light or the speed of thought?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, and that's a question that they're still working on at Fermilab.
They are, yes.
Because they're trying to figure out, well, we've got the C in this equation that supposedly Alfred Einstein figured out.
Yeah.
But we have figured out that, tachyons supposedly move faster than the C, top, I guess it's the top criterion or something,
Yeah.
whatever, you know, we tend to believe, whatever good, about the speed of light.
Yeah.
You know, so we don't fucking know.
Yeah.
And that whole question is still up in the air.
Yeah.
Do tachyons move faster than the c that we believe Albert Einstein has told us is the absolute top speed limit in the universe?
That's funny. Because you know what I this led to you asking me a question that was so important. What is satire? Is that I think humans are hardwired to doubt immediately whatever is said to them or comes out of their mouth. That there's always that flip happening. Like, oh, you should eat now. It's like, I'm not going to eat now, or yeah, I should eat now. Like you're always
Or, fuck you, motherfucker, I don't want to eat.
right, but you don't always say that. You just go, oh, okay,
But
you
you
know.
always
But
think
you're
that.
it's always like whoop, whoop. It's always doing the opposite, so you can like suss it out. Actually, Nietzsche said it great. He says we live life walking forward, but in order to understand it, we got to go in reverse.
Exactly.
So, is human progress cyclical or cumulative? Are we going in circles or are we getting better or worse?
I think it's cumulative.
Do you really?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
And that is what gives me faith in our species.
Yeah.
When I look at our species, I realize that there are individuals in our species, who are moving forward, inherently knowing what it took me a lifetime to realize. They just know it, automatically. Like I've got a guy and a girl and a kid living here, and the kid's a baby.
Right.
The kid is just starting to realize things,
Right.
about life. And I look at this kid and I go, oh shit, this little guy knows more about everything that I could learn in my entire lifetime
Yeah.
in the city, in New York City.
Yeah.
And his mom is from Arkansas. But it's just, it's just like fucking happening.
Yeah.
And
That's a heavy one.
Great.
Yeah, because they have. It seems as though they're operating on intuition all the time. Kids are, and then once we start feeding them with, don't do this, do that, have that one. They change, and the one I hate is whoever come up with this ethic of work. That you have to be hard driven.
Must have been Newt Gingrich.
Newt. Yeah, that's it.
Whatever that prick's name.
How do you find peace of mind?
Ask.
You ask for it?
Yeah, I pray for it.
Do you really?
Yeah,
That's great. If you were walking down the street today and you met yourself as a 12-year-old, what would you say to your 12-year-old self?
I'd say, carry on, brother.
I asked Dr. John all these questions. That was the only one he goes, I ain't going there. Should toilet paper come over the roll or under the roll?
I don't believe in toilet paper.
That is good. If a publisher was to release your autobiography off the top of your head, what would the title be?
Shut up, motherfucker.
And they said, Bruce, we want to scent the glue in the binding. So when you open it, you get a whoop of some smell. What smell would it be?
It would probably be shit.
If there was a statue built in your honor, where would you want it displayed and what would it be made of?
I would think that it would be made out of shit. I think it would be displayed on the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean.
That's great, yeah. Please tell me something good you never had, but you never wanted.
I always wanted everything.
You always wanted everything?
I always wanted everything.
Wow. Where do you think you got that, like, lust for desire from?
It was there.
It was just
So
inside.
why should I have it? Why should some other fucking kid have it? I want it.
But was your mother pretty, supplying for you or, providing for you? Was she always giving you stuff?
Oh, no.
So all the other kids had more toys and you didn't?
I don't even know what the other kids had.
Oh.
Because every time I tried to take some toys from the other kids, my mother would say.
Right.
Anyway, so that was just what happened.
If you were in a vat of vomit up to your neck and someone threw a bag of shit at your face, what would you do?
I'd try to find out which of those two tasted better.
That is a good answer. I've asked that question for 30 years and I've never had that answer, man. That is good, Bruce. What is the healthiest cultural shift you see developing today?
I think it's, communication between individuals.
Yeah.
The absolute healthiest, the future of our species, the most wonderful thing
Yeah.
that we are doing,
Yeah.
that is happening, that we are living through, the most wonderful.
Amazing. What gives you the most optimism?
My little friend Vassar, who is living on the property.
Right.
That, look at that kid. And I say to myself, oh, what a wonderful, wonderful kid.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I think that that's really what he is. He's a wonderful kid. And, when I was growing up, I used to be like, I used to think, let me think, what was I going to say to you? It must have been important. But it was like, I always, whenever I used to play marbles or whenever I used to play anything, I always wanted, what I had to give up. And one of my friends, we were like playing marbles or something like that. And I said, hey man, where you going with that marble? And he said, I won it. And I thought, what do you mean? Well, that's my marble. And that was just my reality.
Yeah.
Back then, everything belonged to everybody, especially to me.
Yeah.
Anyway.
No, that's interesting. It's that whole thing of owning, and you just go to like Dylan's a good example of going, hey, I hear this great song and I'm going to recycle it. Who owns it? The best was when I went up to Charlie Hayden and he plays Oh Joe Clark in the middle of a solo on Ornette's album. And I didn't know the name of the song, but I knew it was some like old song. I said, what's the name of that song you play in the middle of your solo? He goes, that's Oh Joe Clark. I says, who wrote it? And he goes, nobody wrote it. Well, somebody wrote it, but it's been morphed for so many years. There's not one guy who says, I wrote it. It's usually a guy who says,
publisher.
I'm the publisher, or I own the publishing. Pay me. So it's like Dylan saying, he's just recycled all this great old music, and indeed that's what music is. How do you recycle it, and reinvent it, or whatever, regurgitate it. There was one little line I wanted to read you, not to go into Dylan too much at all, but there was one line that he says in the LA Free Press, and I was just curious if you had any reaction to it. They asked him, they said, in '65, Dylan was asked, why did you come to California? Bob said, to find some donkeys for a film I'm making. And then they say, well, are you going to play yourself in the film? And he says, no, I'm going to play my mother, and we're calling it Mother Revisited. Because that's that thing of that mother, thing, back to you being raised mainly by your mom, him going, he's going to, playing his mother, it's that, I guess the question could be this one. Frank Zappa did a anti-drug commercial in the 60s and says, don't do speed, it will turn you into your parents. And so as I turned 50 I'm born in 53, so over the last 8 years as I turned 50, I found that a lot of my peers who were males weren't fretting becoming their parents. Because in essence, we all become our parents. You don't have a choice. And mainly men become their mothers because they're mainly raised by their mothers. Most guys aren't really raised by their dad because they're working. But what I found was the women turning 50 fretted becoming their mothers. So why do women fret becoming their mothers and men don't?
Well, it's because we've already, agreed that, women are smarter. I mean, we won't say it. And like if we're in a concert or something, sit next to some guy and, and the chorus is, that's right, the women are smarter. And he said, that's right, the women are smarter. We'd be, hey brother, let me tell you something. I think I'm gonna have to kick your ass. It's really true, man.
That is heavy. Yeah. And Oscar Wilde said, men don't fret becoming their mothers, and that's their problem.
But mothers fret becoming their mothers.
That's what I'm saying. Women do fret it. I think it's partly the vanity thing. They see their physicalness becoming their mother. And that's where they fret because they're more vain about their appearance.
They are.
Yeah, and men don't
And they're
fret.
taught that that is what they're supposed to be.
Exactly. Yeah. So we're keep on trudging here for about 10 more minutes. Is that okay? Oh,
Yes.
okay. Um, there's a thing about blaming that interests me because in John Steinbeck's the movie of his book Grapes of Wrath,
Yeah.
the guy's standing there with his gun and he's on his land, and the neighbor has to come and say, Joe, get off your land because they're going to plow.
The dust storms.
Yeah, they're putting a road here. They're coming. You can't be here anymore. And he goes, listen, my grandfather farmed this land. My father farmed this land. I farm this land. I own this land. Then who do I shoot? Now, why do we as humans, as a species, have to blame? Is it hardwired that we have to blame? What is this whole function of blaming? What does blaming do?
Well, I think it's the male-female thing.
Do you?
And I think that, like I was probably talking before about this kid who, is growing up on the property
Right.
with me. And this, his mom and his dad have pictures of Martin Luther King on their wall.
Right.
Whereas, maybe I would have had, maybe Ronald Reagan or something. My mom might have done it.
Right.
But it's like, it's all changing.
Yeah.
And you have to realize, I think, that, that this is just what's happening.
Yeah.
And you have to accept it.
Yeah.
And you have to be willing to acknowledge that, maybe the women are smarter.
Yeah.
And, it's just, it's just what's happening.
Yeah. Beautiful. And I just want to touch on music, a couple things. Thelonious Monk said there are no wrong notes. Agree or disagree?
As long as you know what they are and listen to them and hear what they are and are willing to play them again to see what there is.
Yeah.
I don't think there's such thing as a wrong note.
Yeah.
Certainly I don't think anybody who plays jazz can ever think that there is a wrong note.
Yeah.
Because all you have to do is remember it and play it again and see if it works in the context that you're playing it in.
Yeah. And Miles also talked about the space between notes. Can you talk about the space between notes?
Would you rather have me talk about the space between us or talk about miles?
Well, no, more the space between notes. Yeah, or either one really, but yeah, the space between notes. Like.
This lady that you met here before, Fran,
Yeah.
It has just gotten back from Quito,
Where is that?
Ecuador.
Oh, Ecuador. Okay.
And, she's got a friend down there with whom she was staying.
Yeah.
Her friend is like, she was Miles's wife
Oh, I see.
at one point.
Yeah.
And, so she, Franny stayed down there in Quito. I don't speak, I speak a little bit of Spanish,
Right.
but not enough to, have somebody who lives in Ecuador, you know, say something to me and have me understand what they said.
Yeah.
I'd be like, hey man, did you hear that? Oh, what did he just say? But that's the way it is.
Yeah. We're coming to a close here. One other one is what guides your decision making? Allen Ginsberg said, first thought, best thought. Jonathan Lurs says, fast blink decisions are not always useful. And Malcolm Gladwell recommends gut decision making. What guides your decision making?
If I can get away with it.
That is great. If I can get away with it. Both McLuhan and Warhol said art is anything you can get away with.
Which is right on.
And Abby Hoffman said the first rule, the first law or rule of a revolutionary is to get away with it. He said the second rule is to have breakfast.
And both of those are so fucking right on.
They are. Bruce, will there ever be silence?
No. Even in the future, which is going down,
Yeah,
it won't be silence.
yeah,
There might not be primates as we know them,
yeah,
but there will not be silence
yeah.
as we know it. Or actually, maybe there will be silence as we know it.
Oh,
Because silence, I think, occurs when the hydrogen fuel that we're running now, this cycle, when it is used up,
yeah.
and that's going to happen. Anyway, so that's just me going blah, 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 blah.
No, that's fine. Yeah,
Used
when
in
John Cage
Look.
did the whole thing on silence too. You know, he wrote that song where you sit at the piano and don't touch the keys for 4 minutes and 33 seconds.
Which is not music.
Well, he said it's the hardest piece he ever wrote. But he was just making us aware that noise can be music, you know. That it's the sounds in the room, you know, in that case. But he also wrote music. He also did that thing where someone said, we need some African music for this dance piece. So he stuck nails and hair clips in the piano strings, and when you hit it, it sounded like a percussive instrument. So he sort of invented prepared piano because someone wanted him to play like African percussion music, and he was a pianist. He wasn't a drummer. That was sort of an interesting. If you were ruler of the world, what would you do on your first day?
I would say, okay, they're in charge. You know, just get over it, brother.
And on what occasion do you lie?
Every time I think I could get away with it.
Okay, in closing, Bruce, it's been a real honor. Last question is, this lady, Ruth Draper, she's a theatrical person. She says the key is to bring the audience up onto the stage and into the scene with you. It is they who must give you even more than you give them in the way of imagination and creative power. How, as a music performer, have you done that? How is that possible?
My bottom line is I've gotten away with it.
Yeah.
And my noisy cat is coming in.
She's trying to get away with it too. Bruce, It has been an honor and a pleasure,
Gerry,
my
thank
friend.
you.
You are a
Me too,
sweetheart,
man.
man.
Yeah,
You got away
man.
with it for 90 minutes. Pretty dang articulate, man. Yeah, that parade you led for us for those must have been about a year's worth. That was pure jubilee, man.
It was fun for me. I'm
Yeah.
glad that you liked it, man.
Oh, have that stuff on a trailer. That whole idea of wheels turning, you know. We do our best thinking. I find me and Susie both on our bicycles because there's something about motion, and that turning thing.
Well, your body, man. Your body tells you what to do.
It does. All we have to do is have the ears and listen.
Well, you just have to, you just have to say, okay, I'm moving forward because my legs are moving forward.
Yeah,
That's the answer, man.
yeah. It's the brother brew brew machine.
Oh, well, it is whatever it is.
Yeah.
And,
All right, Bruce. Thank you.
okay, Jerry, you're more than welcome. My honor.